Welcome to Podnastics. My name is Jacob Daniel, and along with my friend and co-host Christian Marsh, we interview gymnasts and let them tell their stories. From college-level gymnasts to Olympic stars, we're going to cover it all. This is Podnastics. Welcome back to another episode of Podnastics, the podcast where gymnasts come on and I don't know, they talk about gymnastics or something. I don't know. I don't listen to our own episodes. I am your charismatic as heck host, Jacob Daniel.
And I am your nonchalant co-host, Christian Marsh.
That's actually a really good way of describing you. And this is Podnastics. We haven't done an episode in a couple of weeks, and me and Marsh actually took some R&R that actually led us to finally getting to see each other. For those who might be new listeners, me and Marsh have been friends for a good amount of years, but obviously I'm all the way over in Atlanta, Georgia. He's over in
Williamsburg mostly, but sometimes DC, because that's where I'm from.
There we go. I was about to say that. I was about to say those things. And we actually got to meet up and hang out in the Outer Banks with a good group of our friends. And, you know, it didn't go like the TV show. It was mostly just like a bunch of adult men playing with the waves, which is always
a little less treasure hunting and people dying.
More like 5 grown adult men fighting over one boogie board, which is always a good time. But enough about boogie boards, enough about the Outer Banks, and enough about the gold, John B. Today, our guest is a new gym owner. She actually just opened her gym, and she's a former college gymnast, along with the fact that we've already had her sister on the show. Our guest today is Polina Shchennikova, and we're actually pretty excited to get to meet her because me and Marsh don't know this woman at all. Alona actually suggested we have her on, and so I reached out. So we're pumped to get to know her. This is gonna be an episode where we all get to know who the heck this person is. On today's new episode of Podnastics, starting right now. We've done like 17 episodes, and I still have trouble finding the start button. Yay, and Polina's on the show.
Yay!
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm so excited.
Oh, no problem. Me and Marsh were actually joking about the fact that you're the first guest that we didn't go out and get ourselves. It was actually your sister. When we interviewed Alona, Alona was like, yeah, you should have Polina on. You should have my other sister on. And now we're collecting you guys like the gemstones from the Avengers. Soon we'll get the younger one on and we'll complete the set.
I already DM'd her on TikTok, so I'm on it.
Did you?
Yeah,
We'll actually just get all the Shchennikovas on an episode one of these days.
Dude, I think we should. I think it'd be awesome to have them do the tier list for the events, cause like we did men's. Like if you and your sisters did the women's events, ranked which were your favorites to train and compete and stuff.
That would be fun. I'd be down.
They're actually just all the same opinion. It's actually the quickest 5 minutes episode. I love it. All right, Polina. So how we like to do things on Podnastics is when we bring a guest on, we like to get to know them. So who are you? Just who the heck are you, bud?
Oh, goodness. After 27 years, I still have trouble answering that question, and I keep wanting to go with my name's Polina Shchennikova, and I'm a gymnast, but don't really identify as a gymnast anymore, but my name is still Polina Shchennikova. You know, I am a hard worker and always persistent in everything I do. And that's pretty much the short version of who I am, I guess.
I love it. I'm Jacob Daniel, and I identify as like a mini fridge a lot of times, just very square in life. But no, dude, that's awesome. I actually love that intro. Going back to gymnastics a little bit real quick. And I know like I said, we already interviewed your sister. So we have a general basis of how you grew up. I knew you grew up in a gym with your sisters and with your parents as a coach. What was that like? What was that like growing up with your parents as coaches? This is actually the best people I could be learning from?
Honestly, I think my parents are like the coolest people. My mom was always like the fire. She brought the spark, she brought the passion. And then my dad was like the water. He was always cool, calm, and collected in everything that he did. And they just worked so well together, like a yin and yang, like the perfect pair to be coaches in general. But honestly, I do feel very fortunate that my parents were my coaches growing up. Obviously, it wasn't always easy. Some days you'd come home with your coaches instead of your parents. But I mean, looking back at it, I think it was one of God's greatest gifts that he could have given me just because, you know, they knew me better than anyone else. And not just as an athlete, but as a person. And that also meant that, they could push me when I needed to be pushed, protected me when I needed to be protected, and also just supported me in like ways that nobody else knew or could have. And so that there was always that level of like trust and understanding between us that made it like the hard days a little bit more bearable, and the victories a little bit more meaningful.
Now, your parents, now they were gymnasts over in Russia beforehand, or how did they get over here?
Yeah, so both of them were on the Soviet national team over in Russia. Truthfully, I think like they have one of the coolest stories ever. Like my dad, for example, when they first got to the United States, the way they got there, I think it was called like an O1 visa is how he kind of got to the United States. And what that is pretty much an O1 visa just allows immigrants who have like a special talent or gift to become over to the United States. And in that time, my dad was working with, I believe, Kevin Majika. I hope I didn't mispronounce that. But so he had a really cool opportunity there, and he came over, started working for him and everything. And then a year later, he came back and brought me and my mom over to the United States. And so pretty much we lived in like this dorm room, the three of us, and had absolutely nothing going for us. But that's pretty much how we got to the United States at that point.
Okay, so you were born in Russia.
Correct.
Was Alona born in Russia or was she born over here?
She was born over here in Utah, actually, so where I am now.
Oh, that's wild. I didn't know that. Do you
Mhm.
remember Russia at all or not really?
I mean, I was a baby, so I don't know how much babies can remember anything. But I've been back a few times here and there. So the last time I was over there was in 2018. I got a really cool opportunity to work and volunteer for the FIFA World Cup. So that was the last time I've been back there.
That's one of the best flexes we've gotten on the podcast.
I don't know. That is up there with Megan the Stallion complimented me.
Oh, that
Yeah.
is pretty cool.
So here's another family related question. Growing up with your sisters in the gym too, how was that?
I love growing up with my sisters in the gym. I think we were each other's greatest support system. I mean, I think your sisters are the only people in the world who like know everything about you, and you can be fighting 1 second and then going and getting ice cream and laughing the next second. So we were each other's best support system, best friends. We were always there for each other inside the gym and outside the gym.
That must have been a super nice feeling. Growing up with my little brother doing gymnastics was just, he's 18 months younger than me. So it's always the, I want to be better than my older brother. So there was like one time, I think I did a back handspring and I didn't land it right. And I was standing next to him in line and he just whispers over and he goes, that was a dude. And then he went and he also couldn't do it. So no, I'm sure that's a really great feeling getting to grow up with not only your coaches being your parents, but also your teammates being your sisters too. I'm sure that made your whole life gymnastics 24/7 for a minute.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously there was always some friendly competition, especially between Alona and I, but and Christina, she didn't go the elite route, obviously. She w constantly tells us, she's like, I watched you and Alona constantly, like in the gym, and I said, no thanks. I will just stick to the level
So
7 college route. So
So that's actually a good segue because I was going to ask at what point did you decide to go elite? Like what made you want to go elite?
I don't know if it ever was like it happened so naturally. That's why I can't like say there was ever like a point that like made me want to go that direction. It just with everything and how integrated gymnastics was in my family, I think it was just always like this is the route I'm going. There's no like no really other path. I didn't really know college was a thing really until like I got to high school, to be honest. And so I just always thought that like, going that elite route was normal and the route that everybody went on.
And so when came time for college, you were Michigan, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Was Michigan your first choice or did you have some other options as well?
I had a couple of other options. It I went back and forth between University of Utah, Stanford, and University of Michigan for a while, and then it became against Utah and Michigan that I was going to go for. And truthfully, I just didn't think I was that smart to get into Michigan. So I was like, I always downplayed my own self-worth in that sense of like, oh, like I'm not good enough to go there and everything. And then I remember this one mom who went to Michigan, and she came up to me and she was like, oh yeah, I've already had a conversation with Bev. You made it into Michigan. And I just started bawling my eyes out right then and there because I was like, holy crap, I did it. Like I actually made it. And so that's kind of how I decided Michigan.
Yay,
That's a
I'm
lovely
smart enough
story.
for Michigan.
Well, athletes always get named the jocks and everything, and that they're not that smart. And obviously, coming from in like an online and homeschool environment, I was like, well, do I even compete with like people who went to public school and regular school?
I get that. Marsh is really the brains of this operation. I'm just the ideas. Marsh with his law degree and me with my my graphic design degree. You want to see a circle, Polina? Boom. 4 years of college got me that.
Best circle anybody can draw.
I appreciate that. How was your time at Michigan? Did you like the team?
I had, I think, a very unique journey on at Michigan. Obviously, I medically retired after my sophomore years of college, so I was a very sad individual back then. So I just really don't relate to who I was back then as much as I with the person that I am today, just because of all the things that I felt emotionally then with like injuries and other things that I went through as an athlete and an individual. But my class in general, they were my rock. We really went through a lot together and we always were there together. We cried together, laughed together, just all the good stuff that a good team needs.
So, if you don't mind me asking, what made you medically retire?
I, long story short again, right? But so when I was 14 years old, I had compression fractures that I overtrained on. And not to anybody's fault, but really my own, because I was so motivated and dedicated on reaching that Olympic goal that, the overtraining just got a little too severe to the point where I was like blacking out because of how bad the pain was at the time. Uh, Thankfully, I would say I had to stop my Olympic path and Olympic journey because I had to get surgery on my shoulder, which led me to heal my compression fractures a bit. But then when I got to college, I started feeling a lot of pain in my shins and my legs freshman year. We kind of brushed it off as like shin splints and whatnot. But the following year, before regionals, I was just having this severe weakness in my legs. And the best way I can describe it is like when you go to the gym and you have like a really good workout and you kind of walk out of the gym feeling like a Bambi, like a baby deer trying to stand up for the first time and your legs just feel super weak. That's kind of how my legs were feeling. And so practicing was not fun on that. So I don't know really how I made it through regionals that year just because obviously not being able to feel your legs isn't great. At the after regionals, I got diagnosed with spinal stenosis. And so where my compression fractures were hitting my spinal fluid and it thinned out my spinal fluid and was hitting my spinal cord. So a lot of muscle and nerve damage on top of that spinal thing.
So, when you got the news, what was your headspace like? Was that kind of I'm trying to think of how to phrase it, but I'm sure that having to quit was probably one of the toughest things because like we talked about gymnastics for the longest time was just the reoccurrence of your life. Like that was part of your family's routine and everything.
Yeah, it was gut wrenching. As soon as got out of that doctor's office, I just bolted and ran and cried. And truthfully, I tried to argue with the doctors for pretty much was trying to like negotiate almost and say like, well, I only have 2 years left. So what if I just did beam and bars and not tumbled and not did this? And well, can we have a conversation after I get back from Russia and things like that? So I did not take the news well. I was kind of in denial. It was my whole life, and everything I knew about life was gymnastics. But when I got back from Russia, still tried to negotiate with them, and they were like, Polina, like, if you keep going, you will and most likely be paralyzed from like either just internally how you are now or from your chest all the way down. And for some reason, that just was not clicking in my head. But at the same time, I couldn't like go back to the sport. They wouldn't clear me for it. So it was, I had to start navigating a life without gymnastics, and I couldn't quite let it go. So I stayed on the team as a student assistant coach.
Yeah, well, first off, and Marsh said it when we lost you for one a second. You're one hell of a trooper, dude. I don't know a lot of other people who would have been like, "Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Doc, but I would like to continue." I just wanted to say that real quick. I think that's like put me in that same situation. I'd be going through the same headspace you were, and I'd be like, okay, man, I think this is it for me. But I think the fact that you were wanting to keep going, I mean, that's just a love for the sport. And I mean, I respect that. I respect
Uh,
that so
It's
much.
it's truly an extraordinary
Thank you.
amount of like willpower, determination, and clearly passion. I mean, I cannot imagine training to the point where I am blacking out from pain. I am a baby and I would have stopped so far beyond then. And I think it's just really impressive that you were able to push through that to do something that you loved. Of course, I'm so sorry to hear about the injury,
It's okay.
but very, very impressive in that sense.
Thank you. It is kind of crazy looking back. Like I had a lot of persistence, and I think that persistence carries on today in a more healthier manner, I would say. But yeah, I now I'm just like I don't know how I did it back then, because now I'm like I get a paper cut and like I'm on the floor and crying. So
That's how
I
I
don't know how
feel.
I did it.
That's how I feel when I get like my monthly insurance check. I'm just on the
Yeah,
ground
pretty
crying like a
much.
baby. I'm like, this is hard. What do you mean I can't stay on my parents' insurance?
Yeah, yep.
But here's a good segue. So life after gymnastics, because clearly you came back to it in some form that we'll get into, but what was that like
Right.
after college? Did you pursue still working in gymnastics or what'd you do after college for a little bit?
Yeah, I graduated COVID year, so opportunities were a little bit lesser than the norm, I would say. So thinking anything outside of gymnastics, just I couldn't fathom it at the time, and so I got a volunteer position with the U.S. Air Force Academy. So I was coaching their Division 1 team, and then within 4 months, they had promoted me up to the assistant coach, well, one of the assistant coaches. And so, so much love for Jennifer and Brittany. They were truly like the best coaching staff that I could have worked with at that time. But at the same time, I had that realization when I was there that, I have this, there was two things that I really knew that in life that that I really love helping people and that I was going to be successful in gymnastics. But during that time, I really hated the sport and I was not helping anybody. And so I really had to really take a step back and reflect on what it is that I needed for myself to be able to come back to the sport in a healthy manner and pursue it in a way that is beneficial for the future of the athletes that I'm training.
And so with that, and we'll get to what I've been waiting to talk about, which is you just bought a gym. You're officially a gym
Yes.
owner. How did you go about that? Because you were working at this gym first, or did you just see that just gym was up for sale and you're like, man, let me just throw some dollars at it?
I mean, the way it came about is just so crazy to me. I think my family has wanted a gym and our own business since like forever. It's always been the dream. It's always been the path and passion that we wanted to have for our family, for a legacy for us to leave behind and everything. So we've been trying to do this since 2015. And it just like every single time we did it, something came up, something fell through, and it was just kind of like backfired in some sort of way. Up until like a year and a half ago when Michelle, the previous owner of this gym, so I wasn't working here originally, but she came to my parents and like was like, I think your family is just absolutely incredible, and there's nobody else that I want to have this gym but like you guys. And for me personally, I went back and forth for a while because I truthfully was really scared to come back to gymnastics. I had worked so hard on myself. I just didn't want to get re-triggered over anything. And I do have friends who refuse to step back into a gym because of their experiences. And that's just a really sad reality for a lot of the gymnasts that I grew up with. But like those types of fears and pains and experiences, like I don't want anybody to ever have to feel. And then God just aligned my like everything so perfectly to fall apart in like November time where I just kind of didn't have anybody. I didn't have any like I didn't have a job. I didn't really have a place to live. Like I was pulled away from certain friend groups for such a reason. And I was like, I just feel like I'm being called back into the sport now and I need to take this opportunity like now. And so in February, I think it was February 19th, I came to Utah, signed all the paperwork, and then I closed on March 1st. So it was a really, really quick turnaround, even though it had been such a long process. It everything happened so quickly because like as soon as I decided and as soon as I set my mind to it, it was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go do it because I just, you know, once I did it, I just grew so much more strength and so much more purpose and passion for this gym because it means that I get to be here for kids that were like me growing up. And we always talk about healing our inner child, but when we're adults, but like now with pack gymnastics, I get to focus on the kids at that child level and get to be there for kids like her, like the younger me. And it also means that I get to build a place to help build a space where joy and self-worth and come first. And obviously, I just, I want to be able to protect everybody who comes into this gym, but like I'm only one person. And these girls and these athletes are my responsibility moving forward. And, I just want to make sure that everybody walks away with a positive experience.
That is, I
A
love
mouthful.
it's a mouthful, but it's, me and Marsh did an episode on like the mindset of a gymnast a while back, which,
Mhm.
if I'm being honest, more or less just turned into a rant on what like we think our coaches should have been treating us like
Yeah,
as
fair.
like kids. And it's truthfully there. Like I think the path to being a good gym owner, the path to being a good coach is remembering that like these kids are going through like you're 7 to 18. Like you're
Hmm.
like if I was a coach right now and I had to coach kids, I gotta put myself be like, not only am I coaching them in the gym, I'm like having to take these kids on with whatever they're doing outside of gym.
Right.
And the last thing I want to do is make them like come to gym and dread being here. It's like, no, like you're coming to
Yes.
gym, like you're getting a practice in. And I think as a gym owner, what you just said is awesome. I think that's exactly if I was a parent and I had a kid right now and I heard you say that, I'd be like, let's do this. Let's sign this kid up for pack gymnastics.
Oh, thank you.
So one more question on my end before I throw it over to Marsh for
Mhm.
his Marsh questions. The name, what made you want to go with pack?
Oh my gosh, I am so huge on symbolism. I just love everything about symbolism, and my family is the best thing about me. They've been my rock through everything, and I wouldn't be the person I am today without their love and devotion and support that I receive from them. Like my family, I just personally think are the coolest people ever. So it was very much a tribute to them in a way that it uses each one of our initials to spell out the word pack. So obviously the P for Polina, Alona or the A for Alona and Alex, and then the K for Christina and Katya. So there was the symbolism in that, plus the fact that pack was one of my favorite skills in gymnastics, so it just worked out perfectly for that. And then the third reason is that again, like my family is my rock and I like relate it to like a wolf pack. We're very close. We're very protective of each other and loyal to each other to a fault, I would say. And so when people step into the gym, I want them to feel like they're a part of our family and a part of that legacy with us. And so above one of my doors, I say I have like this writing that says, "Welcome to the pack," because I just want the people who are joining into pack gymnastics to be a part of my family.
Oh my gosh, I absolutely love that. No, that's that's actually great. I'm
Thank
not
you.
I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry. All right, Polina. Now is the time of the segment where we throw it over to Marsh for his signature Marsh questions. He's been thinking about these long and hard. I hope you're ready. Marsh, take it away.
Fabulous.
Of course. Yeah, no. So just to continue a little bit on what you were talking about in your, philosophy as an athlete now to a coach, healing that inner child. What was your favorite part of training, and how does that relate to what your favorite part of coaching is?
My, again, I'm constantly relating it back to like my family, but I think my family was the best part of my coaching. I was online school, so I didn't really have any friends in that aspect. And then I trained a lot alone, and it was just mainly my family that I got to, spend majority of my time with. And they were a lot of my good memories, bad memories, a part of everything that I remember about my childhood. They were just a part of that gym. And
Awesome.
then coaching, you said, yeah. But again, with the coaching, I think my parents have this like really unique way of helping kids find that internal motivation. And that's something that I think I've taken from them from that young experience to be able to now put into that coaching wise is that figuring out what motivates those little girls to be want to do more and to have that passion grow within them the way that my parents instilled in me.
That is great. That's awesome. Yeah, and moving on to the next one. So, are you the first from your family to go to college in the United States?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Can you talk a little bit about like what that was like? And I guess like the general process of, trying to figure out
Mhm.
how to apply to college in the United States, that system, and then like
Yeah.
actually showing up and doing it.
I mean, my parents, they didn't know anything about that world. So I think I was very fortunate that I was talented enough in gymnastics that it kind of took care of itself with the college letters and recruits and everything coming into the gym. It wasn't too hard to navigate for me, thankfully, because I just, like Michigan, for example, having the coaches come into the gym, practice, and, I think the rules were a little bit different back then than they are now, which I think was a little bit more lenient in things of that realm. So it made it easier for me to get into college.
And did you feel like any sort of pressure being the first from your family to do college gymnastics or?
Not really. I think my parents, obviously, their college experience was different, and the way they do it in Russia is a little bit different. So they're like both considered masters of the sport because that's what they went to college for was their gymnastics and then got their degree within that the gymnastics and coaching world. So obviously it's the same but different in a way. So even though it was in a different country, the idea of it remained the same.
I know that's actually a great segue into my next question was you got to study sports management in college, right?
Yes,
Yeah, so which is obviously very cool, fun area of study.
love it.
Do you feel like it prepared you like to now be a gym owner? And is there anything that really struck you? You were like, as a gym owner now, doing
Mhm.
the sports managing that you studied that you weren't that you were su surprised to experience or learn about?
Truthfully, I think so. Fun fact, I actually used to talk with a huge stutter, and sometimes it does still come out when I get a little nervous. But public speaking, like I said in the beginning, it was like one of my biggest fears. And so, sport management was one of the things that really got me out of my shell for that, to be able to communicate with others and speak with others. I took a lot of public speaking classes, debate classes to challenge myself in that realm. So I think in terms of connecting in that way. It really helped prepare me for that aspect of it. But I think my time in between when I stopped working at the Air Force Academy and all of that experience in between then to now probably was my biggest like shaper and preparation for being a gym owner, to be honest.
And so, switching gears just a little bit now, you were fortunate and talented enough to win two event titles in your time in Michigan. What events and what does it take to win an event title in college?
Oh gosh. I don't even remember what I did. Holy crap, I'm like, what college fun was that? But honestly though, like I probably couldn't have done it without my teammates. They were a huge foundational piece in, bringing me up when things were down and my coaches obviously preparing me for those times and getting me prepared to do that. But obviously, I think in gymnastics, especially, consistency is always key, and repetition. Like that's literally what the sport is repeating everything. So that way, when you compete, it feels like practice, and when you're in practice, you want to train like you're competing. And so once you figure out that dynamic a little bit more, I think it really prepares you a lot better to be on those championship level fields.
It's great. It really is nice to have like a community to rely on to both improve you and support you. Because college gymnastics, as you very well know, can be really tough. So I'm glad you were able to lean on that support system and come away with an event title or two. Because that's a big deal to show up to what is, like arguably one of, if not the most competitive, field in gymnastics and win the day. And so, hardest question, last one. What is your favorite movie?
Oh goodness.
No, he took one of my questions. You can't do that, Marsh. Those are mine. But let's hear it.
So my favorite changes a lot. I have a difficulty picking favorites, and I think that just comes with like evolving as a human. But I just recently, this past Sunday, watched The Matrix because one of my friends like told me how much it relates to like Christianity and the characters in there um like are part of like the Christian like world and everything, and he was like, oh, just like go back and watch it and identify which one is which. But it blew my mind. I was like, this is such a crazy movie. And so I like right now I have to say that one right as of like today.
Yeah, I mean Keanu is one of the best actors of all time. So I gotta support your decision right there.
Right,
That's
I've
crazy.
heard good things. I've never seen The Matrix either,
I'm
actually.
I'm kind of like
It's so
I'm kind of
good.
like it's funny. I'll make a callback to Alona's episode because I was riffing on
Mhm.
her because it took her like 7 tries to finish Oppenheimer. I'll admit it. The first time I watched Matrix, we rented
Mhm.
it from Blockbuster. This is showing my age now. I had convinced my parents to let me rent it from Blockbuster, and it took me like the
Mhm.
whole weekend to finish, like 3 days. I just couldn't. I was a young boy. I couldn't get into it. And then like finally
Yeah.
in college, I tried to watch it all in one step and I was like, I can't watch this all in one step. I'm supposed to watch it over 3 days. So I just kept
Right. I know. I'm like I just started the second one last night and I got like 10 minutes in. I was like, okay, I gotta go to bed now. I'll finish it throughout the week.
if you like, dude, if you like the Matrix, and we gotta stay focused. This episode's gotta wrap up eventually. But I mean, I'm just gonna say it right now, Podnastic listeners. If you like Keanu and you like the Matrix, go watch John Wick. Ask your parents about it. It's a great movie. Okay, so wrapping things up before we get to my final thoughts, I want to go back to the FIFA. Like, if you can tell us a little bit about that real quick.
Yeah, that was an insane experience. I think with the University of Michigan, I was like very fortunate. There was only five of us in our kinesiology program that got selected to be a part of the FIFA World Cup. So that was such a cool experience. And I was working in broadcasting at the time, with so pretty much I got to sit in one of the boxes and you have like the Russian announcer and the American announcer, and then a guy who's like sitting in headphones listening to like 18 people talk at once in his head, and they're like doing the countdowns, translating and everything. And I'm just like sitting there in the background, like, holy moly, this is real. Like, this is crazy. And, I know Russian, but like, my Russian's not 100%. And so when they're trying to talk to me in like TV broadcasting terms, I'm like, I gotta get with the days and the program. But it was honestly such a cool and surreal experience to be a part of that culture and everything. And it's, I don't know soccer very well, but my uncle was a professional soccer player. So he was a little envious that I got to be a part of that.
Everything I learned about soccer in my late 20s comes from Ted Lasso. So I'm right up there with you, girl. All right. And moving on to now, I was going to ask you three fun questions, but Marsh stole
Yes.
one of mine. So my first fun question is, what is your go-to shoe? You're about to leave the house. What shoe are you putting on?
Oh, I really wish I put them on today because I have these platforms. They're blue shoes, and they are like this tall or something, 2 inches. They give me some height, but I love wearing them. They're so comfortable, and I just will walk around anywhere. They just didn't match my outfit today,
What
so.
what brand is this? I might have to look into these platforms so the
Yeah,
next
two
time I go.
inches, you said?
Yeah, 2 inches.
Yeah.
I'm very interested as a Jeremy Allen White 5'7" man.
Oh gosh, I'll have to get back to you with what the brand in because I got them a while ago and then I just haven't been able to say goodbye to them. They're getting a little old so and rusty, but
Dude,
I love them.
until they have holes in them, you don't gotta get them. You don't gotta throw them away.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
If they
I can
sell them in
go
the men's,
back to like a lot of my pictures from when I went to Europe yesterday, or not yesterday, last year. I have white ones that I wore in like every single photo and every single because I only could bring one pair at the time since it was like a backpacking trip.
wait, didn't you go see the Olympics last year?
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Real quick, how was that? Shout out, I can't remember who told me that. I think it was either your sister or Evan Manavong told me that.
Oh yeah, insane. Like my whole trip to Europe was on an impulse decision. I like booked my ticket 2 weeks in advance. And the way I decided was, well, I really want to go to Vienna, but I also might be living in North Carolina. So let me see which ticket is cheaper. And so the tickets to Vienna were cheaper, so I booked my flight, and then 2 weeks later I was in Vienna. Which was just a surreal experience. And I was like, okay, I know I have to make like end in Paris for the Olympics. So I hit a bunch of different places, ended in Paris, got to meet up with Evan and a bunch of other people, which was so fun. Like, I was so excited to be there. It was such a surreal experience that, like, oh, I wish I could go back and relive it.
USA Gymnastics, if you can hear me, bring Podnastics to the Olympics.
No, literally, that would be awesome.
And our final question for you before we close out our episode is, what's one weird fact about you?
Oh gosh. I was like, there's so many weird things about me that I just like can't name one. I have a goose that sits in my car, and his name is Goose, and I just like to hold his hand when I drive
No, no, wait, hold up.
for
Oh,
comfort.
how did the goose get in the car, Polina?
I don't know. I don't
what do
know.
you
I
mean
used
you
to.
hold his hand while you're driving?
Yeah, wait. Okay, wait, is this an actual goose or is it a stuffed animal?
No, it's like he's a little like stuffed animal.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Marsh, did you imagine a real goose for a second too?
No, I was caught up on the logistics of like like driving and like trying to hold his hand. I'm trying to figure out when we're touching the goose.
Well, he just like sits in my lap, and I grab his little wing, and
Oh, okay,
you know.
okay.
I'd
But
be
like my whole goal in life is to one day have a farm. So he's like one of the animals that like I want goose and I want pigs and goats and things like that. So that's my like motivation to also one day have that.
Dude, farms are great. My grandparents had a farm, and until I was about 7, they had a pet duck who terrorized me. This thing,
So
no, this thing was like chasing me, and my family thought it was hysterical. Meanwhile, I'm like in a horror movie with this duck. I dude, he would come bite me unprompted. And then that like I came for one summer and they're like, yeah, that duck died. And I was like, I was dancing on its grave. I was like, yes, I win. What a crazy way to end this podcast with that story. But unfortunately, our time is up. Polina, thanks for coming on today. And for Podnastics, my name is Jacob Daniel.
My name is Christian Marsh.
And I'm Polina Shchennikova.
And this has been Podnastics. Good night, Utah.